Thank you, Scott. Welcome, everyone, to this regular City Council meeting for Monday, June 16th, 2025. Marie, would you call the roll?
Fritz,
Here.
Lowe,
Here.
McLaughlin,
Here.
Manetza.
Here. Our invocation this evening is by Pastor Mike Gaffa of the Covenant Life Church. Please rise and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
This evening, I'm going to open with a very brief prayer from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It was pertinent for the times that he lived and remains pertinent for the times that we live in. So let's pray, please. God, we thank you for the inspiration of Jesus. Grant that we will love you with all of our hearts, souls, and minds, and love our neighbors as we love ourselves, even our enemy neighbors. And we ask God in these days of emotional tension when the problems of the world are gigantic in extent and chaotic in detail, to be with us in our going out and our coming in our rising up and in our lying down, in our moments of joy and in our moments of sorrow, until the day when there shall be no sunset and no dawn. And to Dr. King's prayer, let me add these simple words. Lord, we ask that you would bless our city council members and their families as they seek the welfare of the city this evening and throughout their terms of service. This we pray in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have no appointments, reappointments this evening, although I am working on new appointments to begin in July, so we'll see those at our next meeting. At this point, we need the approval of the consent and regular agendas. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Fritz, second by Lowe. Any changes, modifications, anything to the agenda? Anything from staff?
No.
Anything from anyone else?
No.
Okay, would you please call the roll?
Fritz,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Manetza.
Yes. So it brings us to our first call to the audience. At this time, members of the audience may address council on any item, whether on the agenda or not. Those addressing council are asked to provide their name and address, will be limited to 3 minutes of speaking time. Council will hear all comments for future consideration, will not have a response at this time. Those not physically present who would like to call in may dial 616-935-3203. Who would like to address council?
Good evening, Ken Formsma, 317 Terrell, Vanna White on my right with some brochures. What I'd like to do tonight is just talk about the coal tipple, why it's important, and try to get a perspective of what has been in Grand Haven and why saving historical artifacts is important. The depot and the coal tipple are really the only two remaining parts of our railroad history, which was 100 years of Grand Haven's growth from 1858 to 1958. In 1958, the last 4 passengers left, 2 tickets to Coopersville, 2 tickets to Grand Rapids, and then it was over. The coal tipple was a symbol of not only the railroad industry, but also only the most affluent and the most successful train and railroading companies had coal tipples. Today, there are only 3 of those in Michigan, none in the Upper Peninsula. One here, we're the only coal tipple that is accessible to the public. The mate to ours is in Durand, right off I-69 by Flint. And it's in the middle of a field, it's not approachable by the public. And then the third coal tipple is in Lansing. Okay, the rest of them are history. And so we have something that nobody else has. What's important is that the coal tipple and the depot are those 2 pieces of history. In 1971, the depot was going to be demolished to make room for more bleachers in the new, at that time, Waterfront Stadium. And so Dave Seibold and Tad Poole took an ad out in the Tribune and asked the people in town to sign. And they would take care of the legwork and talk to City Council about saving it. Okay, obviously that worked. The asking price was $67,500. The Loudoun Foundation had just finished buying all the waterfront from the now marina down to Snug Harbor and had invested $838,000. They wrote a check for $50,000. The city paid the balance, and that's why that piece of history is still here today. One of the things that I think is important is to keep things in perspective. There's a lot of chatter in town about changes and how that's hard for a lot of people. When we did the boardwalk in '82, it was a wonderful idea. But Ken, don't you know that AP Parts and Cooper Industry just left town? In 25 years later, in 2009, when it was time to upgrade, they said, well, don't you know the economy's awful? I said, yes, we do. That's why we've hired 25 licensed builders to put it back together. They're happy to have a job. So when the talk of the hotel comes up, I think one of the things that's important to remember is that in 1880, the lumbering industry went away, then the fishing and the shipping went away in the harbor, and now the railroading has gone away. But that doesn't mean that we have to lose our pieces of history as we move forward and as things change. So that this trap door will open because of the budget. Do I end up in the lunchroom when I go down, or where do I end up?
Unfortunately
Don't
not.
ask.
There's no food down there.
All right, I got to go, right? Thank you for listening. I
Tell
hope.
them about this way.
Thank you, Ken.
Yeah,
Okay.
Sharon,
Sharon
we have
knows to have 3 minutes
brochures just
worth
so
of
that
stuff,
you're
too.
informed. We're going to culminate with the museum the third Thursday of August. And it's going to be going on all summer. So we think it's an important thing to preserve. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ken. Who else would like to address council?
It is. One big step for mankind. Steve Birch, 132 Dale Court. And what brings me here tonight is the city administration's grant application submission for your authorization. We think it's a wonderful proposal. It's found on your consent agenda. I think some of you know that for years, neighbors, residents have been trying to impress upon the city administration, this august body, that it's important, the walkability in the city. It's in your master plan, and we'd like to see it actually fleshed out. And I think what this new administration is doing now is just that, and we're excited about it. Grand Haven, my wife and I have been here for about 12 years or so. We were in Rockford before that, worked in Grand Rapids, and we liked Rockford, very nice small town appeal. Met some nice people up there, nice neighbors. And then to come to Grand Haven in retirement was wonderful. Annika's twin sister lives 15 minutes south of here, so the twins are together in retirement. I'm in good standing with her because of that. But in as much as Grand Haven is a nice small town, it's important that I think we have walkability. And it is one thing for Ms. Lowe, you and I, to drive past each other in a car. We'd never say hi or anything, wouldn't know each other. But when you're on a bike, walking, maybe even on a motor scooter, I think the chances are enhanced that you're going to at least smile, greet, what have you. Some time ago, one of the members of this council said, bemoaned the fact that things were getting less civil. Well, in an effort to address that, let me just suggest that this is one of those ways. When you walk past people, you're almost forced to say it. Now, when you walk past people on a 3-foot sidewalk on Harbor Drive, that's another issue that hopefully this proposal will address. And we want to thank in particular the new administration. We think they're wonderful. They get it, that this is a small town, walkability is an important thing, and they are basically taking a tangible first step to effectuating that. And we thank the city, the new city administration, the DPW director, and we thank you for your anticipated favorable vote.
Thank you. Perfect timing. Who else would like to address council?
Good evening, Jim Hagan, 400 Lake. What I'd like to talk about again is the public safety millage, the 2 mil public safety millage. When I look at this, I see in the language we're going to raise about, projected to raise 1.8 million the first year. And when you look at the Prop A in Headley over 10 years, it's going to be 20.6 million. But then when I look at how much our general fund expenditure is, 13.9 million and 40-odd% is public safety, which is about just over 6 million a year. So it's obvious to me that 1.8 million is not going to pay for the entirety of public safety. And I've looked at the Grand Haven Public Safety Millage.org page, and there's a whole list of things that, you know, this is why we need the millage. Way too much out there for this millage. So what I'm asking for, and I hope the rest of the community asks for, is an itemized list of exactly what this millage is going for, what items, what amount by each year. I think it's extremely important that we know this. We saw what happened to the public school system when they had a bunch of generalized wish list, right? Did the community like that? No. They voted against it. So I think it's really important that we have a detailed list well before the public meetings, which I see are in August, September, and October. Otherwise, we don't know what it's about. How can we intelligently vote? Thanks.
Thank you. Who else would like to address council?
Hi there, I'm Field Reichard at 1050 Ohio Avenue in Grand Haven. My comments will be pretty brief. Firstly, I want to compliment Pete, Dave, Tom, and Chris for your involvement in helping to develop a hotel for downtown Grand Haven. A lot of you don't know that the hotel is built on the site of the E.H. Sheldon Mineral Baths. Ken will be aware of all this good history. And there's a very interesting reality. In the basement of the new, I guess what used to be the Security First Bank, Fifth Third Bank, I don't know what its name is these days, there is a permanent pump pumping water into the city's sewer system that is actually the mineral water from the old E.H. Sheldon Mills. It would be great if you guys could put a spigot in your lobby of that water. It would be a very, very cool thing if you could do it. I was in the mid-'70s. I read an article in the Grand Haven, in the one of the Detroit newspapers about the development of a downtown development authority in Battle Creek. And I went to the city manager at the time, Larry Deachin, and I said, Larry, we need to do this for Grand Haven. So the Downtown Development Authority started, we were the third in the state to do a downtown development authority. And for a while, it was moving along slowly. It's had its issues, and I'm very, very pleased to see the energy that exists in that authority. I do think that there are some very interesting challenges with the new hotel, but I think the developer has a great history, and I think it's something that will make a huge difference for downtown Grand Haven. The 200 block of downtown Grand Haven, which used to be where my family business was located, was the healthiest business block in the city, and it has really faded over time. I think that hotel is going to make a major difference. It's going to add significantly to the tax base of our community, and I'm very, very, very pleased that it's going to be there. My one concern, which I think a number of people have, is parking, but you guys will have to eventually build a deck on top of the hotel where people can park their cars. Thank you very much for
Thank you.
your leadership on this.
Thank you, Field.
Ryan Cotton, 515 Park Avenue, and I'm here for a different reason that I'll get to very quickly, but I do want to say, since the hotel was just mentioned, that I have experience when I was city manager in Holland with location of the Marriott in downtown Holland by the same individuals, same developers. And I can tell you that in addition to all of the customary benefits you would expect, some of which were just elaborated upon, it was a meeting place for the community. I had numerous meetings there. There was a Starbucks. I don't know if what's planned there now, how the lobby will be, but it was a tremendous resource on top of everything else that you can imagine. Last thing I'll say about that, we should not worry about parking. Within 10 years, people like many of us will be using our apps and getting autonomous vehicles to pick us up, and they'll just keep circulating, and they won't need any place to park. So in the long term, parking ramps will become dinosaurs. So what I'm here for was an MDNR report about deer management. Is that on tonight's agenda?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Who else would like to address council? There are no public hearings this evening. We will have another opportunity to address council at the end of the meeting, but by that time, we will have concluded our business. So if you want to address council one more time before we proceed, now would be the time. Got one.
Sharon Beam, 15898 Ridgefield, Grand Haven Township, 214 Washington, Boar Shoes and Accessory. I just want to remind you guys, I remember sitting up here probably 3.5 years ago, and one of the things that I said that I learned from my dear friend and mentor, Ken Formsma, is we are who we are today because of who they were. You guys have this opportunity. This is a game changer for the city of Grand Haven. I've been fortunate to sit in some meetings. Tom has come and visited our downtown merchants group, and I really wish I had one misstep with that group that day. I wish I would have invited all of you to come. Because when he talked, I have never seen this group of people come together and be so excited. It was so interesting because he mentioned about the whole parking thing, and everybody's like, you know what? I'll let them park in my spot. Now, you all know, we've been there a long time. For us to give up our parking spot speaks of volumes about this hotel. This project has brought energy and excitement to our entire downtown, and you guys have an opportunity to be those people. Someday, somebody's going to stand up here like me and say, we are who we are today because of who they were. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Sharon. Anyone else? If not, then I'm going to close the call to the audience. We'll move on to a presentation by Field Reichert on the Road Commission.
Thank you, Mayor Manetza and Ashley, for getting me onto the agenda. The Ottawa County Road Commission recently initiated a program for board members to periodically meet with elected officials in all the communities of Ottawa County. This is my first meeting with you. I've also met with the councils of Ferrysburg, Spring Lake, as well as the boards of Crockery, Robinson, and Spring Lake Townships, and I will be meeting with Grand Haven Township later, next week. The Road Commission, our purpose is not to talk to you, but with you. I'm here to listen to any concerns that you may have. The Road Commission is a 5-member board. I was appointed to the board in late 2022, and I'm serving a 6-year term. A bit of background for you. The County Road Commission was started in 1911. We're 114 years old. The initial road tax levied by the Board of Supervisors, the predecessor to the County Commission, was a $0.50. Last August, the taxpayers of the county voted a 10-year millage of .4578. The county road millage today is at a lower rate than it was 114 years ago. Importantly, 100% of the funds raised from the millage collected from taxpayers in Grand Haven are conveyed directly to you by the county treasurer and are being spent here. Back in 1911, the original plan for the Road Commission was to improve 197 miles of county roads. Today, we maintain more than 1,700 miles in the county. As the County Road Commission, we oversee everything from road maintenance and snow removal to bridges, drainage improvements outside of the cities. Through the Ottawa County Public Utilities, we also play a role in ensuring water and wastewater services for many communities. Pat Siskevich of our staff works closely with the Northwest Ottawa Water System and the Wastewater Authority. Regarding the water system, people need to know this. It's probably important for you to know that the day is coming when the system is going to be needing expansion. It's something that you all should be looking forward to. I don't know the amount of money, but it's going to be significant. Our road commission budget is nearly $68.1 million. Of that, more than $47 million is spent directly on road and bridge improvements and maintenance. $7 million is spent on capital outlays such as equipment. Only $2.7 million is spent on administration. Our detailed budget is in the Ottawa County Road Commission website. I'm providing you with a few items which may be of interest, and I think they've been handed out to you, or at least one of them has. The listing of comparative county tax levies. You will note that Grand Haven City residents, through our share of the millage on road taxes, received $397,576 in 2024. It will be more this year. I also have for you, and I think Maria has them, some hot off the press 2025 official Ottawa County road maps. They show our primary roads, our secondary roads, our gravel roads, and the locations of our 42 remarkable Ottawa County parks. I've offered to meet with you as a council from time to time. I'm also willing to meet with the Planning Commission. If we, as road commissioners, know what communities are planning, it helps us affect the planning of our staff. I hope to meet with Grand Haven's elected and, if appropriate, appointed officials at least 2 times a year, again, primarily to listen to you. Though this is not a part of my function as a road commissioner, I want to talk to you about another issue. Mayor Manetza and Councilman McLaughlin both serve, as I do, on the policy committee of the West Michigan Shoreline Regional Development Commission, which has the unfortunate nickname of Wimserdick. An interesting fact for you, more than 70,000 vehicles a day pass between our area and the Muskegon area on US 31. Many of those are commuters who work in plants and other organizations here and in Muskegon. We are working to find some ways to provide practical, low-cost public transit for those who commute. We are all aware of the congestion problems of our highway through town. Several of us on the policy committee have been pushing for a seamless connection between Harbor Transit and the Muskegon area transit system. Some have suggested that the service be extended from Montague in the north and potentially all the way to Holland. With the changes in costs, especially for vehicles, this will become increasingly important to us. Bob, Kevin, and I have no serious news to report to you on this yet, but when the time comes, I hope Grand Haven and this community will be supportive of this kind of a program. So as I said at the beginning of my comments, I'm here to hear your thoughts and concerns and comments. And I also do have some extra maps for people that would like them. I don't think I have enough for everybody, but I know that some of you are married to each other, and maybe you can make do with one. And I would urge the people in the community that may want an Ottawa County Road Commission map to basically go to the website for the Ottawa County Road Commission. And I'm sure that Teresa in our office will send one to you. I also want to thank the gentleman who projects your television coverage to the community. He does a great job. It's a great service for all of us, those of us that are too lazy to come to meetings. So I'd love to hear your comments, thoughts, concerns. It'd be great.
Okay, let's open the floor.
I just want to say thank you for the report. For the simple fact is, I've been here 22 years. This is the first time I've seen a road commissioner come in and make a report to us. So I want to say thank you for at least coming here and letting us know. It's very helpful for everybody at home.
Well, thank you, Mike. It's something that I proposed to the commission, and we are reaching to every community in the, and I'll tell you, we're hearing great things. The best meetings have been, for me, have been in Crockery and Robinson Townships. I've just heard some phenomenal stories.
So I want to just say thank you so very much for the
Well,
report.
you're welcome. Thank you.
John?
No, I'm good. All right.
Karen, anything?
No, thank you, Field. I thought the same. This is the first time I've ever received a report on the, County Road Commission, and I'm sure our public would love to know. This is very informative, what you do, and where their money goes. So this is very, very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So Phil, I get a turn too. Could you elaborate a little bit on how the road commission and their crews interact, or where the responsibilities are between that and our own public works department? I know that you take care of plowing and such on Beacon Boulevard, and we interface at the south end of town and various places. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
We do the state highways, state and federal highways, as well as the county roads. And we even do subdivisions. It's interesting, Grand Haven Township has a separate single mill for their roads, and that's primarily, I believe, for subdivisions. They have a lot of development happening out there, and that's what that's for. In terms of the interface, that's a good question. I will ask if we communicate with the Department of Public Works here, and in terms of timing. I live on the south end of town. I live at the corner of Ferry and Ohio, and I see the road commission trucks coming up on, what is it, 174th or something, and connecting to Grand Haven, and often they beat the city. But I will find out if there is direct liaison. There probably is some of some sort.
Okay. Well, let me introduce you to Mr. Mike England. He's our new DPW director. You guys have good conversations, please.
All right, we will. Thanks.
I appreciate all the information. I appreciate the information about the millage. The public likes to hear this stuff too, so we kind of know there's so many multiple agencies and multiple levels of government at the local level even. It's good to know who's who and why, and this helps. So appreciate the report, and this is the first time this has happened, so very good.
I'm a believer that all governmental agencies should have a public face, not just sit in a boardroom. So thank you for having me here, and Ashley, thank you for setting this up.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Phil.
And that brings us to our consent agenda. Maria, would you like to read that?
Yes. Item A, this should say approve the regular council meeting minutes for June 2nd, 2025. Item B, approve the bills memo in the amount of $966,415.86. Item C, approve a contractor services agreement with Advanced Pavement Marking of West Olive, Michigan in the budgeted amount of $52,824.30 for citywide pavement marking and striping. Item D, approve a lease agreement between the Grand Haven Spring Lake Sewer Authority and City of Grand Haven contingent upon approval and concurrence of the city attorney for a city-owned public parking lot at the east end of Washington Avenue. And item E, approve fiscal year 2024-25 budget amendments for the General Fund 101, Major Street Funds 202, Local Street Funds 203, Special Revenue Funds 243 through 276, and Public Improvement Fund 401.
Can I get a motion?
So moved?
Second?
Motion by Fritz, second by Lowe. Questions on any of these items?
Emily, I got one question. On,
Yeah, the other Emily.
Emily.
when you step up and become finance director, then you're in trouble. You're great at DPW. Can you explain to me DPW community promotion? What am I missing here? It says salaries and wages of $1,000, and then you go through all the health care at $2,000 and MERS at $5,400. How's that split up, and what exactly is DPW in charge of it?
Yes.
I
So
should ask
the
this a budget, so I apologize.
Yep. Well, and so community promotion are any of the are the events.
Yeah, it's essentially our special events. So our Department of Public Works splits their budget across approximately 60 different functions. So
Correct.
each year, depending on how the year pans out, how events pan out, whether we're putting out extra barricades or, for example, extra snow plowing, those allocations change. So that requires an amendment at the end of the year. So we must have had increased services for events this year.
Okay.
There are a lot of departments in the DPW fund,
Yeah.
in the general fund for DPW. And we've looked at kind of consolidating them to make it clearer, and we haven't come up with a way to do that, so that we know where, so we know, the city knows where we're spending the money. We decided to keep all of the departments.
Yeah, I was just wondering because it goes, when it says salaries of $150 and you increase it by $850, I just don't know. That doesn't cover a
Well,
day's worth of work, so I was just
Yeah,
wondering.
well, and that's the part-time, those are the part-time, so seasonal, that's going to be seasonal employee.
Okay. All right, I'm good, thank you.
Yep.
Good, thanks. Karen, anything?
No.
No, I appreciate the budget amendments. We understand the function of them is just to make sure that we're ready to close our books.
Correct,
So every little thing that needs to be corrected gets done now.
correct, yes. And the budget is, it's a projection, and so now we have the final numbers, or close to the final numbers, so.
Well, we appreciate that when you set the budget, you're conservative about it, that you underestimate revenues and overestimate expenses, so you know we have enough money.
We try to do that, yes.
Okay, and it works.
We'll continue to do that.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Emily.
If there are no other questions, would you please call the roll?
Fritz?
Yes.
Lowe?
Yes.
McLaughlin?
Yes.
Manetza?
Yes. That brings us to our unfinished business. Could you read that, please?
Yep. Item A, consideration by City Council of a final resolution to amend the zoning map and approve the zoning change request from CB Central Business District to PD Planned Development District and associated preliminary development plan for a hotel at 233 Washington Avenue, parcel number 70-03-20-432-017.
Can I get a motion?
So moved?
Second?
Motion by Lowe, second by McLaughlin. And what we have here is a second reading of a resolution we passed, but there have been a couple of changes to it. Could we have Brian come and tell us what those changes are, just so the public is aware?
Brian Urquhart, city planner. And this second reading, there was a slight change in one of the conditions placed in the ordinance, and we heard loud and clear about parking. The preliminary development plan calls for 89 on-street parking spaces. The requirement is 128. That leaves 39 spaces. There was no requirement whatsoever to count on-street parking spaces. So the ordinance allows a distance between public and private spaces that are off-street or public or off-street parking spaces to be counted up to 400 feet. We took what were comments that we saw last meeting and mapped it out and looked at all would be available, and we extended it out to 900 feet. That would encompass more than enough public and private spaces to be counted towards that required 39 spaces. So with that being said, a planned development in itself, just like we're going through with the height requirement, some of the other things, it offers flexibility. So this falls in line with the spirit and intent of the ordinance to have this type of a development to occur in that particular location. So that would be the only change that was shown from the first reading to the second reading, is the condition that the requirement for utilizing off-street parking shall be extended to a walking distance of 900 feet of a building entrance, of the hotel entrance, and no on-street parking spaces shall be counted towards the required parking amount.
Okay. One comment I have, and I mentioned this to Ashley earlier, the text as published says requirement for utilizing off-street public parking spaces shall be extended to walking distance of 900. I think we should amend that to take the word public out.
Correct, I
So it
agree.
should be public or private.
Yep, so just off-street
So I'll be
public
asking,
spaces.
I'll be asking for an amendment to take that word out. Any other questions on this?
I have a couple of questions. On the no on-street parking spaces can be counted, that wasn't in the last reading, correct?
Correct.
That was something that was just added?
That's new here.
Yeah, I guess I'm just wondering, why, why it's not, why it can't be counted. I'm not in some way, shape, or form. When we had the Tribune building, am I wrong, but were they allowed to count any street parking towards the number of units in the Tribune apartments?
The ordinance reads that if it's a non-residential, you can count it on-street parking.
Non-residential?
Yeah, but with the Tribune, that was a PD as well, and they took into account a different parking amount because it was through a plan development with some options there. This, after we discussed it, if you counted on-street parking overnight, that causes a lot of problem with administration, enforcement, things of that nature, and it's just not best practice, at least at this time, to incorporate that for use such as a hotel and trying to have a public parking space that benefits specifically one off-street use or private use. So that's why it was part of our discussion, that we didn't take into account any on-street parking.
So we've never made any accommodations like that and allowed people to use that from a planning commission?
Well, in the downtown area,
We've never done that in the downtown
not to my
area.
recollection.
So,
No on-street parking or no public parking lots?
Nope.
no, just,
Just off-street parking lots, public or private, can be counted towards the 39 required spaces
Okay.
within 900 feet.
Okay. I still don't know why you can't do on-street, but
well,
are you happy with that? I'm asking you guys. I mean,
Ideally, the guests are gonna park the most convenient spot for them in the moment, you know? So, I mean, ideally, it would be adjacent to the hotel, but finding parking that is not already encumbered within a stone's throw or less.
why don't you come up to the podium if you're going to talk?
Okay, sorry.
Because
Yeah,
Mr. McLaughlin has a
The
question.
team, and I can let them speak as well, we have had numerous conversations with a number of neighbors, and it has been extremely cumbersome to try to find something that is essentially adjacent to the property. And the example I would give is if you rolled into town out of a return flight from, say, Chicago, and you made the red-eye drive up here, and it's 3 a.m. and you're walking in, you're gonna park at the closest spot to the hotel, whether that's permitted or not. So that's something we'll have to deal with, and we'll have to figure out how we navigate. Ideally, yes, on-street would be ideal for the guests and their experience. In that rare occasion we're sold out. But at the end of the day, if, having an agreement and figuring that out, we're committed to trying to figure out how we get the project done and to make it a success for the city. And so that's where we're at is we'll figure out solutions. The city's been working overtime, I would say, as a newcomer to the city to try to help us find an agreement, but a lot of the conversations we've had have been, hey, we'd love to help you, but we already have 4 people ahead of you that we have agreements with. We've toyed with ideas of if we did on-street, could we snow melt it or something if it's more of a DPW and plowing issue, or, what would that look like? And, there's so many kind of, numbers and things we've tried to tackle. So, I don't know what the best solution is here, but I could very well see us in front of you in a year from now, knowing how it's flowing and how it's working, saying, hey, could we work for some sort of solution that allows for this or allows for that? Because we can all surmise, but until it's in practicality, we won't know the exact answer. The reality is, though, the need for the on-street spots is a handful of days a year.
Right.
We're gonna have spots in our lot to accommodate the guests 90% of the time. And so, we're trying to solve for that. I don't wanna say the 1% issue, but we'll say the 10% issue. It's something that until we're actually using it, we'll really see how everybody interacts with the city, with parking and with the spaces, and is there really the demand for that many spots, so.
You know, as I said at last meeting, I don't want this project to die because of parking. Maybe other things that happens, financing, I can surely understand all that, but parking does not make any sense to me. And, you know, whatever we have to do as a city to make this work, I think we have to.
Yeah.
And if it allows on-street parking, so be it. But, you know, I'm just one person.
And as a development team, we've talked through ways to help to add public-private benefit through the addition, like of the angled spaces, say along Third Street. Through the brownfield, there's ways to help us absorb some of the cost, at least to install snow melt underneath those spaces, for example. Now, obviously, that we'll have to cover the operating cost of that, which that gas bill will be aggressive, I'm sure. But, you know, stuff like that, I think, would help answer some of those questions and provide the spaces needed. You know, and again, we only use them on a handful of times, on a handful of situations, especially in that season, where that would be more of a public benefit
True.
in that situation,
True,
so.
'cause you won't
But
need it.
I do have to give kudos to the staff, because they've gone out of their way to try to help us solve this issue. Marriott has told us, and I've asked, I haven't gone all the way up to Arnie, but who's not Arnie anymore, but as far as I've gone so far in the development world, is basically their answer is across the street. And I'm like, well, it might be a little further than across the street. They said, we'll negotiate that when we find it, but, you know, at the end of the day, I guess put yourself in the shoes of the guest arriving at 3 a.m. and on that one-off night, where are you at? Where are you parking? You know, I can tell you where my wife would park, so. So, anyways, we'd love to be flexible on it, and at the end of the day, we're here to be a good neighbor, a good citizen. I've been, you know, as Mr. Birch alluded to it earlier, I rode the school bus with his kids for 5 or 6 years to school every day, so they know us very well. And actually, a lot of familiar faces in the crowd today for unrelated issues with Ryan and everything, so. Right, yeah. Stay seated, sir. So, yeah. So, sorry, Brian, I didn't mean to throw any wrenches or ringers into the program. I don't know how this affects everything that's going on, but I appreciate the conversation.
But Brian, I thought at the last meeting you said that we could give some percentage up to for street parking or that there was some kind of accommodation that we could give. Or did I mishear you?
I think that may have been misunderstood, and there was no on-street parking in the original first reading of the plan development ordinance.
Why okay.
So just to, I mean, frankly, I think staff is far less concerned about maintenance issues of those parking spaces and other issues of that nature. I think after hearing the commentary at your previous meeting, we're steering in this direction based on it sounds like there's a split council on the idea. In order to entertain the on-street parking, we would have to ultimately look to come back to amend the ordinance to allow overnight parking, which would obviously require a majority vote. So again, trying to steer the development team in a direction that'll get us across the finish line. That was a staff determination to include in your resolution as it stands today. Certainly within your authority to allow it, but we would have to come back to amend some of those ordinances as they exist.
Well, this is something, I spoke about this when we had our discussion 2 weeks ago as well, that I wasn't in favor of on-street parking counting toward your parking requirement. And one of the reasons was we have an ordinance, which is not in zoning, it's in the Code of Ordinances that says on Third Street in Washington, no overnight parking any time of the year. And it details, I think it's from 2 till 6, is it? It's some such time. There's a period of time in there. Also in zoning, it says that parking, on-street parking can't be counted if it's not available for some number of hours each day, which would include that. So we would have to, if we wanted to include on-street parking, we would have to modify that ordinance, which is outside of zoning. And we would, in order to actually make it work for their benefit, we'd have to license those places to them. Because otherwise, anybody would park there. Neighbors didn't want to park overnight on the street they could park there unless it's got a sign on it that says reserved for the hotel use. So we'd have to do at least two things. We would have to change the code of ordinances to allow overnight parking on Third Street in Washington, and we would have to license those. Otherwise, they would be useless to you because they'd be full all the time with other people parking there because it would be illegal for anybody.
Well,
So-
Mr. Mayor, I would propose that if said change would be considered, that we would call it maybe permitted parking, where we would be authorized to put a decal like in the window of our guest cars. Because yes, you're not going to want people to come downtown and be able to camp overnight. That would be totally.
That's why this ordinance exists.
You know, 100%. But there might be other uses where the city might want to permit people to be able to use those spots. And I can't, on the spot here, come up with that reason.
No.
But maybe there's overnight business or an overnight doctor or whatever else where they could, in that situation, get a permit through whether it's the DDA or the city to allow for overnight parking, but then you could track that back to who that car belongs to or that user. So,
Right, well,
just a thought.
I continue with my point. There's at least a couple more steps would have to happen before the planning commission could even consider counting those spaces for your benefit.
Okay.
The compromise I might offer to council, if everybody's interested, this doesn't need to be in this piece of zoning. This amendment doesn't have to say no on-street parking space shall be counted because they already can't be. They can't be as.
Correct. I
they
agree
can't
with
be-
that,
they
unless
can't
we
be as-
change the ordinance.
They can't be as they are, so the planning commission can't consider them at this point. If we wanted to make this silent on the matter of on-street parking and just remove that sentence, then it could be considered in the future with other ordinance changes. So you could reserve that open, but it still has that same hurdle to get over. I don't know that I would ever vote for that, but maybe at a future time somebody else would. But if we lock it into zoning now, it makes it harder to go there. So I would offer, if council is interested in striking that line, it's still not allowed at this point in time.
I agree, but we have not made, as you've indicated, we could change the ordinance, and it could be, it's got other hurdles. I just see no point in putting that in at this point as an additional requirement, because it's not, we've given you our direction to try to find private parking that you can lease. I just don't think that we should go there.
I just don't want to raise false hopes that, okay, we took it out of here, therefore it's on its way. No, it's not, but it's just we made this silent on the matter, and there's other stuff we'd have to change.
And I'll
Brian?
say two more things is one, we have that same requirement from Marriott that we have to satisfy.
Right, and I think that's a bigger hurdle than what we're offering you.
It's equally powerful in my world. And the second would be, not only that, but satisfying the guests, that's ultimately our goal, is a happy guest is going to come back and they're going to tell their friends to come back. And that's what we want. So at the end of the day, I think the answer is somewhere in between, and we're just trying to figure out what that is. But we're willing to work on whether it's permitted, whether it's, however that works. Like, we're committed to a successful outcome for everybody, so. If it is more ordinance changes, we can work through the team. Again, Ashley, Dana, and Brian have been committed to helping us. They've helped us. They've introduced us to so many people. We're grateful for that.
Brian, have I misrepresented anything here?
No, I just put that in there. I apologize for any confusion.
No, I'm just trying to make sure that we're all talking about the same thing.
Yeah, it's, again, like a PD is there for flexibility, and that's what we're kind of here, and that's why it was kind of
But if we
included.
wanted to amend the PD to add this back in later, it would be starting at square one
To add
to add it.
on-street.
So if we didn't do it today, then when we came back later, you'd be starting
was-
over, kind
if
of
it as is
like the
written-
Belmar sign.
Gotcha, totally get what you're saying. So if we strike it, we wouldn't have to start all the way over.
I mean, I
Whereas if
think
we
that
kept-
that might be a reasonable thing to do at this point in time, but it still doesn't give the planning commission permission to count those spaces.
Correct.
One other thing I'd like to say, there's a lot out there. I know many of you have read a lot about strong towns, and especially small towns, spending a lot of time and building into their ordinance a lot more parking than really should be required, and creating sort of its own nightmare instead of moving toward a more walkable and friendly town. We have created requirements that are, and I think this is a great case when we look at a hotel that is not going to need all those spaces except, maybe 10% of the time, and then, saying that we can't accommodate through looking at some street parking. I just think we need to be open to that, and I'd just like to, and that's why I would prefer, Your Honor, if we would just leave that, remain silent on it and strike that line.
Mike, you've been quiet over there.
I'm always quiet on this stuff.
Okay. Well, we need to do an amendment to strike the word public from public parking spaces.
Absolutely.
And we should do, if we want to strike this other line because it's published this way in our agenda, we should include in that amendment to strike the line, no on-street parking space shall be counted toward the required parking amount, because it basically doesn't mean anything at this point.
I would make a motion to amend it as you described.
A motion by Lowe, second by McLaughlin to,
To clarify, I have to amend the motion to remove the word public and the last sentence from section 4, item 10 of the proposed zoning change requests.
Correct.
okay, that's my understanding as well.
No, I'm good.
Any other comments on this? Anybody? I know this is a little convoluted, but this is just the way it is, and we're trying to make the language as good as we can at this point without telling you, oh yeah, let's go ahead and count those spaces. That's clear? Okay, let's call a vote on this amendment.
Lowe,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Fritz,
Yes.
Manetza.
Yes. All right, so now we have an amended motion. Any other questions or comments on the second reading? Because this would be our last shot at it.
I just want to say thank you for everybody working hard and trying to find a solution here. And Bob, I want to say thank you for making an amendment change for us and that helping us, trying to guide us through all this. There's a lot of things going on, and we've had a lot of other businesses down there at one time wanted parking also for their customers, and we've been very adamant at saying no. So we got to be very careful in what we do. So I'm going to move forward with this, but I'm glad to say thank you to everybody for working really hard. And also, I want to remind, at the last meeting, Bob, you brought up the attention of the cladding around the bottom. Just as long as it meets the downtown standards, make sure the Planning Commission understands that it meets the downtown standards and the design and the building of it. So we want to make sure that it fits in and it's going to be a long-lasting building I want down there.
Okay, thank you. Please call the roll.
Lowe,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Fritz,
Yes.
Manetza.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good work. All right, now that brings us to our first item of new business.
Consideration by City Council of a resolution to approve a contract with Midwest Construction Group of Zeeland, Michigan for the Sluka Field renovations project in the budgeted amount of $534,884.76, with $293,900 coming from the Michigan Department of Natural Resources Land and Water Conservation Fund, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary documents.
Can I get a motion?
So moved?
Second?
Motion by Fritz, second by Lowe. Dana, are you explaining this one to us?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's get the microphone a little bit closer. Good evening, everybody. So this evening, we do have before you a low bid for our Sluka Field renovations that we're excited to move forward with. Just a reminder for everybody, we're looking at expanding the existing parking lot. So immediately adjacent to what's there, we'll be creating additional parking spaces. We'll also be improving the dugouts, new dugouts with some accessible areas within the dugouts. and also some seating and lighting as well. So we're excited to bring this project forward. We actually received a bid just under what we had budgeted, so we had around $545,000 budgeted, but the project came in at $534,884.76. So we're hoping that we're authorized to move forward and start working with the contractor and get started with the project this fall.
Okay. Questions, comments?
I think this is I'm fully supportive of it for the simple fact is it's going to bring us more parking out there.
Yep.
And all the development that's happening on the east end out there, it's what they're going to actually really need a lot. And also it's going to be some great improvements on our ball field also, because I can't tell you the last time those dugouts were done. If I can kind of barely remember, is I think the Boy Scouts did it way back when my brother was in on the kids league at the time, working together on it. So it's been, they're in dire need, and it's a premier baseball field. If you go around, if you've been in a state here and you've been around, we used to have state championships here. They used to come here and play on that field alone. So it's got some history. So I'm really excited about, like, especially the parking. I think that's going to be really helpful for them out there.
Okay. I do have one question. So the grant amount was $293,900?
Yes, that was the grant amount. As we were reading the resolution, it's not necessary to have that in the resolution, but it will be 50% of the total project cost. So we were granted up to $293,900.
Right.
So it'll be split 50/50.
So that brings me to the other half of my question, which is there any way that we can spend the rest of that money that was granted to us? We would have to put some with it, but is there something you could?
It would have to fit within what we were granted approval for. So if we
Okay.
had additional costs that met what they reviewed and what they approved,
I just
then
hate to
yes.
leave money on the table.
Yeah, I know.
That's kind of what we're doing, but I understand you can't just go and add a whole bunch of stuff to the project, but if there was some way to get more of that grant money, it'd be nice.
It may be possible if we are, like I said, meeting the grant requirements and what they've reviewed and approved. We'd probably just check in with the state and make sure that if there was a lighting choice or option or something that we were already doing that we wanted to upgrade, that would probably be where we would do it. Not necessarily adding scope to the project.
Right, okay. That was my only question.
But the budgeted amount would have to go up too if it's a 50/50
Yeah, you'd have to
split,
adjust,
so
you'd
we'd
have to amend that budgeted amount, so
It's still worth doing.
it's still free money.
Yeah.
No, it's not free, but it's still extra money.
Right.
All right,
It's free in the-
would you please call the roll?
Fritz?
Yes.
Lowe?
Yes.
McLaughlin?
Yes.
Manetza?
Yes. Next item, please.
Item B, consideration by City Council of a resolution to approve the Grand Haven Airport premises license and hangar development agreement. Airport Board recommends approval, administration recommends approval.
Can I get a motion?
So move.
And second.
Motion by McLaughlin, second by Fritz. You want Ben to go straight to it, or you want the staff person involved?
I was just gonna say, I think Ben would be able to answer most of the questions.
All right. Ben?
Ben
Brief-
Eniga?
Brief summary.
Pardon me?
Brief
Yeah.
summary.
Well, Ben Eniga, 14315 Briarfield Lane, Grand Haven. I'm on the airport board and currently serve as chair. What we're trying to do is get more hangars, larger hangars at the airport. And by doing that, we're looking to lease property on the airport to individuals, private individuals, to build hangars at the airport. We have established minimum size requirements already approved by council. And now this is just the final thing that needs to be in place, a resolution by the city council that, yes, we're going to go ahead and do this.
Okay, and what we have in front of us is basically a summary of what that would look like?
Well, what you have in front of us is the contract,
Okay.
I believe.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
so we're approving the language that you would use in a contract.
Right. The contract has been drafted and reviewed by the city attorney. I believe he made some tweaks to it, but this is the final draft, yes.
Okay. Questions?
After 30 years, it's ours.
That's correct. There'd be a 10, 10, and 10. The property, or the individual would get the first 10 years. then he's eligible for remaining 20 years in 10-year terms. And then at the end of the day, 30 years, that property, that hangar on the airport becomes property of the city.
Well, then let's make them take care of it.
Well, definitely, that's all enclosed in
All
the
in the agreement.
contract.
All in
He
the
has to
agreement.
maintain it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I've been to a lot of airport board meetings. I know you guys worked really hard and long on this.
Yeah.
Appreciate all the thought that went into it.
Thank you.
Any questions? Please call.
After 30 years, could they release it back?
They can't, no.
They can't.
It becomes the property of the city,
But
and
they
the city
can't
can rent it out.
They could lease it, the city could lease it back
Back
out
to the
them.
individual that originally built it or family member?
Yeah.
Yeah, but now it's going to be leased back at the cost of price of a hangar, not just
Just the land.
Yeah,
cost
it's
of the
not-
property.
Won't be a ground lease anymore.
Right, it won't be a ground lease. It'll be a
Oh,
hangar
no, I
lease.
understand that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not questioning that.
yeah.
Correct.
But it would be the airport, the city leasing it out to that individual again as a complete hangar.
So 30 years from now, you're going to make sure that happens?
I'd like to say I will be.
Yeah. you
Like,
and me
I'd like to
both.
say, all of you will be able to see it too.
All right,
That ain't gonna happen, so.
Probably not.
all right. Any other questions? You call the roll.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Fritz,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
Manetza.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. Thanks for all the work. Next item, please.
Item C, consideration by City Council of a resolution to authorize staff to submit a Safe Streets and Roads for All grant application to perform a comprehensive safety action plan for the city of Grand Haven and commit the 20% city match of $89,000 to be spread over fiscal years 26 through 2028. Administration recommends approval.
All right, can I get a motion?
So moved?
Second?
Motion by Fritz, second by Lowe. Dana, are you explaining this? Oh, Mike?
Mike is going to.
Yep. So I was sitting in an Abbenmarsh projects meeting and Tim Drew brought this up to me that there's $500 million out there that we could go after. In order to do that, we have to go over the study process, going over, looking at safe routes, identifying bad routes, what we can connect, signage, all that fun stuff, just to make it safer for people for the walkability throughout the city and navigate on bikes and bike paths, I think is another big one that was on there too, and just help connect like the south end of the town or the east end of the town to this side. And Beach Street Corridor was another big one, Lake Avenue and Harbor. So this would help give us the funding to hopefully do some improvements in those areas.
So this gives you a foundation to ask for other
Yep.
funding.
Yep, 100%.
And most of this is covered by grant, and then it opens the door for construction work.
Yeah, yep, the construction funds, which I believe is 100%, if I remember correctly. Was that?
I believe so. But yeah, this would be a multi-fiscal year process, so it assists us in being able to split the match funding for now. But again, with that safety analysis, ADA transition plan, and the non-motorized route planning, really think, again, to check the box for the ability to obtain and take advantage of some of that additional outside construction funding, which has really prohibited a lot of these projects from happening. But again, I think it's just inherently valuable for the city to have this tool, and we can utilize its findings to not only seek outside funding, but to internally continue to make progress in the realm of accessibility and pedestrian-friendly priorities. So we're excited to try to pursue the construction funding post-study.
And Leah just texted me, she said that the only way we can get into the next step is by doing this study.
Who does the study?
Abbenmarsh.
Oh, Abbenmarsh.
Abbenmarsh would do the study for us, yep. Tim Drews, that's his, from what I understood.
They have traffic engineers, mobility experts on staff within their team.
It's going out, actually taking photos of the identified areas and videotape, just kind of making sure the grades and stuff like that and identifying the areas that need some attention.
That's a study, but, okay.
Other questions? Mike, anything?
No.
Okay.
I just hope it doesn't sit on a shelf. That's all I'm worried about.
No,
There's enough studies have been, set on the shelf. I just hope that doesn't happen here. I mean, it's a great, I'm not against it, please. I don't want anybody to think that, but we just hope it doesn't sit there because the state doesn't fund it. That's all.
all right, well, it'll be a good resource for us. Please call the roll.
The money, it isn't.
Fritz?
Yes.
Lowe?
Yes.
McLaughlin?
Yes.
Manetza?
Yes. And that brings us to report by city council. Who would like to go first?
I'm good.
All right.
Well, and Saturday, we were at the Pride Festival. It was a great event. It was so much fun. I tell you, it was exciting. And it was nice to see my fellow council members there with us and supporting of all this. So it opens up a lot of avenues for us with people. So other than that, I'm not going to mention the Tigers,
Okay.
but we'll move on.
All right.
I'm good.
Yeah, we had a nice busy weekend. Pride Festival was good. I was honored to be allowed to make some opening remarks. That was fun. I attended the Feast of the Strawberry Moon, which is in about its 25th year, and I was out there pounding stakes in the ground. So that's my job. And then we had things at the beach, and we had the road all tore up for the entire weekend for US 31, both north and south, which made for a lot of traffic, a lot of slow-moving traffic. But we don't control that. That's MDOT.
One more weekend.
One more weekend of fun on the road. Okay. Other than that, I don't have anything else to report, so turn it over to city manager.
Okay. I just really briefly wanted to make an introduction to you all, as you'll be working with her closely in the coming months. But we had the pleasure of extending an offer for our human resources manager position to Taylor Carlin. So I just wanted to give her a quick opportunity to briefly introduce herself to you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Taylor Carlin, as Ashley just mentioned, the new HR manager for the city of Grand Haven. I just wanted to say thank you all for having me here today. I'm really excited to be joining the team. This is my third week here, so been going around and introducing myself to everybody and some of the staff members, and everybody's been really warm and welcoming, so it's been great so far.
No, we wish you a lot of luck.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Sounded a little scary.
You've got a tough staff to take care of.
Welcome, Taylor.
Yeah, welcome aboard.
Yeah, Kevin, that didn't sound very warm and fuzzy.
It really was meant the way, not the way it sounded. Sorry, I apologize.
No.
Welcome in.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you for taking it on.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, thanks.
And Taylor joins us with a significant amount of municipal experience, so I think she knows what she's getting into, luckily. But that is all I had.
Okay. That brings us to our second call to the audience. This time, members of the audience may address council on any item, whether on the agenda or not. Those addressing council are asked to provide their name and address, be limited to 3 minutes of speaking time. We'll hear all comments for future consideration, but will not have a response at this time. Those not physically present who would like to call in may dial 616-935-3203. Who would like to address council? No one? Okay, in that case, we're going to close call to the audience and adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for coming.
Do any of you want a map?
Getting better all the time,
I do.
isn't it, Mike?
Yes, I'll take one.
You got 2 years left. I got 4.
I'm old-fashioned. I like maps.
Well, there you go.
Comfort kind of thing.
I'll take one.
And I'll talk
I
to
got a map.
Amy
Thank
about getting the updated information.
I don't know my way around this county at all.
It has whatever other information he said it has.
I'll take one. I'll give it to my wife. She told me this one.
It's very good.
My motorhome has about 1,000 of them. 8-bed.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks, man.
Been a while getting to this point.
A couple of years we've been working on this.
Yeah. So when are we going to see an actual contract?
I know 4 people are interested.
Okay. You got the